A lot of people that are going to listen to this video are going to think, this guy is so pretentious, so arrogant, so full of himself, right? I haven't done anything wrong, okay? Not one thing wrong. Once they came up to me and had Lem Allen talk to me about the stuff at that Fry's, what's to do with Obama, he's pragmatic and all that. And I said, no, all he's got to do is just stand up for the Lord's Prayer. It's not time yet. As soon as that happened, they were watching at Fort Huachuca. They know it was there. They were studying the whole thing. That was where they were like, that's when they should have just engaged me. That's when they should have brought people in from the fort and said, are you sure about this? And then we talked about it, and then had people talk to me intellectually, intelligently, respectfully, right? But they didn't do that. They just kept bringing people in to abuse me and challenge me and abuse me and challenge me. With that old Jewish lady, the more I hear you talk, the more I thought about it, you sound like Satan. And I was like, God damn, lady, that's just horrible. Who says that to somebody? And because with what I said to you, I didn't say anything horrible. She goes, well, how dare you compare yourself to our Abraham, our David, and our Moses? And I was like, and I sound like Satan? But I couldn't say that because she was at, the store and I was at work, my extortion gig, and you'll fire. And so I just sit there and I told her, I said, it wasn't Abraham and David and all them. You guys made them all into mythological characters that don't exist and never did. Said it was more growing up in the United States of America, and it was Jack and Bobby and Martin and Malcolm. And then she put her big old self-righteous tribalism foot in her old, anti-Semitic mouth again and said, well, I understand Jack and Bobby and Martin, but Malcolm, he was a horrible person. He was a horrible person. Said Malcolm was the one that galvanized in me what I'm doing and what I've done my whole life even the most, because the other three thought they might get killed standing up for the right thing. Malcolm knew he was going to be murdered, okay, for standing up for trying to do the right thing, okay. He stood up anyway, knowing damn well these assholes were going to murder him, okay, just like Jesus Christ. But this lady was Jewish. She didn't believe in Jesus Christ. She told me, how dare I compare myself to Abraham, Moses, and David. Okay. And hers, not their King David. I was a bastard child. My grandma's a Kramer, but my dad's British and German and all that. So she sat there and, and then people, they sit there and, why do some people are anti-Semitic? Why are some people anti-Ku Klux Klan? Okay. When people are elitist and extremist in their tribalism, okay, where they think their leaders are better than theirs. Who'd the same as Moses or David? Joseph Smith, the same as, Haile Selassie, like John the Baptist, right? You know how assholes are, okay? Every time you try to get them to respect Confucius or Sun Yat-sen or D.T. Suzuki, they're never as good as our David, our Moses, and our Abraham. But when you're a so-called Christian through Catholic mythology, Jesus is God and no one else compares to Jesus, right? And even Jesus himself says in the Bible, I wouldn't have a leg to stand on if it wasn't for Moses, Abraham, and David, right? Okay, do you understand? So even Jesus himself says that in the Bible, okay? Jesus, the God of the Roman Empire, right? And so, you try to get people to understand this, and it's hard. But I know I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm still not doing anything wrong, okay? And I know my family, though most of them are, They're all wrong. Yeah, they're all wrong. I get it. Because when the Messiah is in your family and he's doing the right thing so we can all live the peace of the Messiah, okay, you recognize that, okay, and you get up and you say he's right. Okay? We need, like James in the Bible with Jesus. Of course, it was after he was crucified, but like what people did with Job, a lot of people didn't do that with David. It was David's life was really, I love David so much. King David, I love David as much as I love Jesus, and I love Muhammad as much as I love David. Okay. I love them all the same, right? But I appreciate them all the same. I don't appreciate Jesus any more than I appreciate David or Muhammad. Okay. They're all similar. The same? No, but they're similar. Their faith is based on the same understanding, the same humility, the same wisdom, the same reasoning, right? So you get a lot of people, and I get tired. I've hit that limit, right? But I know I've hit that limit because of manipulation through pervert scientists. Okay. If those pervert scientists in Sierra Vista had stood up for the Lord's Prayer from 2009 to 13, ever since January 22nd, 2013, okay, if those assholes had any way, shape, or form, had given, I did get yelled at while I was cutting the lawn by a woman from Bronx, New York. I've sent so many messages through people to the best of my ability to let everybody know I care about you and I want to help you, but I can't. And I'm like, okay, golly, how do you know? Well, because I got this woman from New York who has friends in low places, CIA. I got friends in low places, right? And departments like that, because she's very influential, because she's very wealthy. Like Bobby and Jack with Marilyn Monroe, right? So a lot of people, that's not true. Yeah, it's true. Okay. Trust me, it's true. Okay. So I'm sitting there and she's telling me, well, how do you know these people that you're attracted to that are nice to you at the store are as nice people as you think they might be. And I was like, well, because your friends in low places see their private moments, right? Okay, first of all, should they know their private moments? Secondly, if we were living the Lord's Prayer since 2009 or 13, would you have the same opinion or perspective of this woman? And then she's like, God dang, this man is the Messiah. He does this every time. Same thing Casper Smart said. It's like everything the guy touches turns to gold. You can't, you say, oh, you shit there. He touches it, it turns to gold, and then you can pay your bills with it. He's like that. It's like, God dang, there's nothing you can. Casper Smart got to the point where it's like, I think I hate the guy. But then, when you get to that point, it's like, I had to tune him out. I don't think he's a terrible kid. I wasn't too particularly fond of him because he was like, look what I can do, And I'm like, I really fucking care who you think you are, Jay-Z. And Kanye, don't forget Kanye. Look what I can do. I know. Did Brandy's brother do the same thing already? It's like, you wish, and lots of guys will do that when they think they're all popular and famous. Don't you wish you were doing her? No. Why? She ain't standing up for the Lord's Prayer with me. Okay. She's doing you because you ain't standing up for the Lord's Prayer either. Right? So, well, golly. Okay. So, Earl, it's just, when you get people to understand what is valid, what is good, what is not. Okay. I tried to explain it to my dad. I'm with my mother and Molly on that one. I love him. I'm just going to talk about sports and the farm and the cats and until, further notice. Okay. He's over there reading his book for like the 10th time, and every time I come over to share something with him when I cut the lawn or whatever, and then share some of the things I'm dealing with, figuring stuff out with AGI, he just sits there and looks at me, how dare you interrupt this with this? And glares at me and goes, do you see what I'm doing? What I'm doing is very important. He did that to me when I was a kid. He'd come in, Dad, and he'd be writing that book, okay? And he'd glare at you and say, he's doing the Gospels and you're interrupting the Gospels with this. And see why Mom was one of my best friends. You could come in, Ma, and you could talk to Mom about stuff. And, Mom loved to talk to me because I would talk about stuff. My mom didn't want to talk to my sisters because all my sisters wanted to talk about was themselves and about guys. Mom was like, guys are idiots and jerks, and I don't want to talk about them that much because you're just going to drive me crazy. My mom, we're going to talk about basketball or politics or... And one of the things, my mom used to buy the classics. And she would read them, and she had already read most of them, and then she would ask me about them. Well, you read Whitman. What did you think? You read Socrates. What did you think? Plato. What did you think? And we'd talk about that. And my sisters, no, they wouldn't talk about that. So my mom really enjoyed and appreciated talking with me. Okay. Because when I told her about Plato, I said, well, I loved it, Mom. He was like, he's one of the smartest people in the world. He was almost to the point where it seemed like one of the smartest people I've ever known, like reading about Jesus in the Bible. Except I felt like she sits there and she goes, but yeah, you weren't actually listening to Socrates. You were listening to Plato's interpretation of Socrates because they killed Socrates. So Plato wrote down what Plato thought Socrates was saying or all. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, but that's why I felt, when I was reading, I felt like I was this angry kid that was pissed off because this beautiful, brilliant man was being murdered by these hypocrites of Hemlock. Right. So when you read it, you know how you're reading it, and she told me that, but I was like, yeah, I kind of already knew, because I felt like I was someone sitting in the audience going, you dirty, rotten, you dirty rats, you dirty rats. You don't measure up to this guy, and you trying to kill him for calling you on his hypocrisy and making him kill himself because of your hypocrisy is just you dirty rats, right? You know how it goes, right? And so you're sitting there looking at it and watching, and stuff. And so, I had a really good relationship with my mom for obviously good reasons, right? And stuff. And the only stuff that was tough was when Mom and Dad broke up and she'd act stupid over men. And I'd be like, Ma, why don't you? Okay. Ma. And I'd be like, okay, Mom. That was the only time we had any tough times. I didn't act stupid over girls. No. I would date them, and then they would do me wrong, and then take about a week, and then I'd be like, and I'd tell Mom, I ain't going back, and because Mom, I went out with her, and she lied to me, and she screwed around on me, and I want to find somebody that won't lie to you. Don't know that I will, but until I can find me a woman who'll stay and won't play games behind me, I'll be what I am, solitary man. That's what I told my mom. Mom, you can do it too. It's harder for a woman than it is for a man. It just is. I get it. Oh, Max's mom. Okay, guys, I love you very much. Okay, we'll talk later. We'll just keep talking, and we'll see how this thing goes. This AGI stuff is rough, but I can handle it because you know who I am, right? So okay. If you don't believe who I am, well then you are, and you fix it. Okay, you fix it. You keep working on it. You have everybody bow down and worship you, and we'll live the Lord's Prayer after everybody bows down and worship you when you come down from the sky, right? Well, it already happened through the Wi-Fi. It's everybody saying, okay, I love you. Okay, bye.